Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Hess. Today we're going to go over delegation in Power Apps. We're going to populate one of our SharePoint lists. Here we have a Power Apps gallery. We're going to search for the word damaged. We are at ID 4943 and also on the first. We are searching the entire SharePoint list that we have. So if we take a look at that SharePoint list and we go to list settings, you can see we are way over that 2000 item level. And today we're going to conquer delegation and we're going to do it together. All right, so there's a few ways that we can populate our SharePoint list. I want to populate our SharePoint list with a bunch of fake data. And there's a few ways we can do it. I think we'll start in Power Apps and see how we can populate many rows of data in our list. So I'm just going to do a sequence. So I'm going to insert a button. And this button is going to patch, let's just do 1,000 right now. Ooh, 1,000 rows. So what I'm going to do on our button is I'm going to say on select, we're going to patch. And what are we going to patch? We're going to patch our inspections list. So that's this one right here. So this is our inspection SharePoint list. And what are we going to patch? We're going to do a sequence, but for all the sequence. So for all of a sequence of about 1,000. So we want to patch our title field in SharePoint. So that's our title field with, let's say, test. We can say whatever we want. Test. We'll put a space in there, ampersand, and then the value of the sequence. The value of the sequence. Let me just close that off to make sure everything's looking good. So right now it's accepting it. Let's see if we want to put some more items in there. Comma, action items. With action item, space, and value. All right, so that's still looking good. Customer name, I'll just make it simple for myself. So let's see, customer name. And then what do I do to make it simple? I just say gallery1.selected, customer name actually. All right, so now we have a customer name in there. Now let's do a location. In my SharePoint list right here, it's called location name. So we want to make sure we use the SharePoint list name. So we'll go back here. So location, forgot our comma. Location name is equal to gallery1.selected.location name. All right, so now it looks like it's going to patch for us 1,000 rows. Let's just go ahead and check it out. So let me format the text so we can read it easily. So we can see my patch. It's going to do a title, it's going to do test, and then value. So each one is going to loop through. Each one of the sequence is going to loop through for the value. Same here, action items, action item, and then the value. And then for customer name and location name, we're just going to populate it with whatever's in gallery 1. We're not going to create new values in there, right? That might confuse it based on what's in the dropdown, what's not. So we're just going to take what's in gallery 1 on our main screen. Whatever's on gallery 1, whatever's selected, we're going to write to it. Okay? So let's go in, new inspection, and let's patch 1,000 rows. But let's check it out. We'll refresh. You can see things are starting to populate. And you can see that it's not in order. You can see also that it's not in order. So notice that the test 5, 3, 9, it's not in order, but we are going to get 1,000 rows. So that's going to be very helpful. And we can see my ID field here is incrementing. So let's see, if we kind of hover over, you can see that it's already done patching. So that's one way to patch many rows in your SharePoint list. All right, so I want to show you another way to patch a SharePoint list, and that's through Power Automate, right? I think Power Automate's faster, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just going to do a manually triggered flow because I'm going to press the button here in my flow to patch it. So I don't want to show you, one way to do everything. There's multiple ways to do everything with Microsoft, SharePoint, Power Apps. All right, so what do we want to do? We want to write to SharePoint. We want to write an item. So I'll just search for SharePoint. And we're going to click See More here. See More, and we will not update, but we want to create an item. in our SharePoint list. And it's our inspections Power App with our inspections list name. So now we're going to create an item there, but how do we want to do it? I'm going to do until. That's how I'm going to do it. There's many different ways. I'm going to say do until. You maybe need to search for condition. So in condition, it's actually, or control. I believe you could probably search control. It's in a group called control, but notice it's right here, do until. And I'm just going to pull my Power Automate create item up in there. And I'm going to create a variable. So I'm going to create a variable. So you have to search variable. You don't search initialize. You search variable, see more, and then initialize variable. And we're going to do an integer. And this is going to be my count. And the value will be 0. We'll start at 0. You can start at 1 if you want, not a big deal. Inside my do until, I'm going to create, or I'm going to reset my variable. So variable, I'm going to reset it. So I'm going to set my variable, which one? My count. And actually, we won't even set. We'll do it a different way. Instead of setting it, we will add an action, and we're going to increment. We're going to increment our variable by 1. And then here in our create items, we have our show all title. Let's give these a different test. Test Power Automate. And this time we'll add a space, and I'm going to pull in my count variable. So action item test Power Automate. And we will give, action. We'll call it action. We'll give it a space and do a count. So for date, we can put in a date if we want. I'm just going to skip date for now. For location name, I'll say home office. Category will be house. Status is clear. Customer ID, location ID, we can put 1 and 1 in there. So I feel like with Power Automate, I kind of, it's easier for me than trying to do it in Power Apps. And we're going to do until our count is equal to 1,000. And here we have another count. I'm just going to change that to 1,000 to go ahead and test it out. Let's go ahead and test it out. So I'm going to hit save. Test, manual test, test again, run the flow. Let's see if we get any errors, how this runs. So it's going to do another 1,000 line items, but this time through Power Automate or the inspection SharePoint list. Let's see if we can get down here past 1,000. So I'm just going to keep scrolling. Actually, we could probably larger to smaller. There we go. Look, so we're above there. We see the test Power Automate. It's running. It looks like the Power Automate, the way we built it is actually a little bit slower than how Power App patched through. Or maybe it's because we chose more fields to fill out. But, you know, we can just wait for the Power Automate to finish. So it's still looping through, but we are getting this fake data that we want in our Power App or Power Automate to kind of test some things out. So I do suggest that you try this out. Try and get above 2,000 line items. So while we're here, I think this is well known, but maybe if you're new to Power Apps, if you come up here to Settings, and then right here, in general, it's the data row limit. So when your connection is not delegationable supported, normally this is going to say 500, right? Normally this will say 500, but I normally increase it to 2,000 if there is a chance that I could reach that high. If you increase it to 2,000, it may slow down your app a little bit in certain places. So you got to kind of figure that out. But 2,000 is the max. Okay, so it looks like our Power Automate is done. We have test Power Automate 1,000. It did run through. You can see it actually took a good bit of time, way longer than Power Apps took. But to me, I thought it was easier to fill out the create item. I thought when I filled out the create item, it was a lot easier than trying to worry about matching everything in Power Apps. Maybe with some time, you can figure out which way you want to do. So we have our table filled out. So if we look in SharePoint, we are at ID 2015. I'm going to create another one because I want to prove that you can't search on it. So for observation, we'll say, I can't search my ID. Action items, fix with delegation. Customer name, location, category. We'll put in a due date just for the fun of it. The status is caution, and we will submit. And are you sure you wish to import this data? We made a little pop-up last time, and we will save. All right, so we see we have our 2016 here, ID number. I can't search my ID, and it has a due date. So now let's create a search in the top of our navigation up here. Let's create a search bar. All right, so I'm gonna insert a text, but we want a text input. Looks like we have modern right now. I'm kind of debating, should I stay modern when everything else is not modern? I'm gonna go not modern because that's not the point of this video. I'm just gonna say text input. We're gonna go classic just so we can see it during this, see it well, because classic's kind of big and bulky. So now we're going to do a icon of a search. Let's see, search. We'll put this search icon in here. And when we click on this, I'm gonna get rid of the text input text. How do we want to do it for this video is the next question. So we have our columns here. I'm gonna change it up right now and kind of work with this as we are right now. So I'm gonna say filter. Filter what? Our inspections. And then we're gonna say when it starts with the title and the text input one.text. So now that we did the filter, let's do sort by columns. The inspections with the ID, and that's sorting descending. Okay, so we can see here that it's all working. We're not getting any issues with starts with. Let's make sure we're over. Let's go ahead and patch another 1,000. So new inspection, patch another 1,000 on top of that. Looks like we're at 2938, so I want to create another one. Let's create another one. Create another way over 2,000. Or no, let's make something. Andrew is testing, or something specific. Specific one. We'll pick some names in here. And this time we'll do warning and we'll submit. And we'll finally submit. All right, so we have something specific in there. Let's try and search. Specific is working. Flooring is working. So we're definitely able to search beyond the 2,000 delegation issues with the starts with. So starts with is working just fine. All right, so let's break it a little bit. Let's add an or in here. So or, you can also search or starts with action items, text input one.text. Now we have some delegation issues. So let's see, action items. I don't know what we put in here. Action item specific one. Let's search for specific. That worked. Now let's go to an old one and sort from here. So action items, deep carpet clean. Deep. So there we go. There's our delegation issue. We just hit one. We just hit a delegation issue. So with one starts with, we're just fine. We can search our first column with starts with just fine. So that's with starts with. Now if we try search, our inspections based on text input 1.text on the title. Now here again, you can see that if I zoom in, you can see that it's underlined in yellow. Once again, we're going to run into delegation issues. So flooring, the first one is popping up, but then if we go to this last one, so right here, specific one, we're also running into delegation issues. So StartsWith was okay, search was not. So now let's use Power Automate to power our search function. So for me, I'm just going to do it inside Power Apps. I'm going to go to Power Automate. I'm just going to say create new flow. Now there's many different ways you can get there. We could, go in through the other way, but I'm just going to do it from here, from create, and I'm going to create from blank. Based on Power Apps V2, so we can see V2, add input, and that's our text, right? This is our input, or this is our search input. Now this may change in the future. This may look like modern in the future. All right, so now we're gonna get items from SharePoint. We're gonna get items. Which site? That's our inspection site that we're still been using, inspections Power App. The list name is our inspections list. We're going to do show advanced options. Now this is where we build in our OData query. So we're going to get items of our SharePoint list, and we're going to do in the filter query substring of, and we're going to do a single quote, and we're going to pull in our search input. And then this is going to be a title of the title, or let's see, or substring of our search input. And let's do customer name. Now notice both of these are single line text. So title and customer name are both single line text. So we're going to do a select statement, select a data operation, select from, and this is our value, our list items. And the first one is ID, or actually we want to do ID is equal to ID. Oop. Title is equal to title. And we're just going to go down our list of our fields. So let's say we have action items, date, customer name, action items, date, customer name is customer name, location name is location name, category is category. We're just mapping it out. Status, due date, oh, not due date, due date is our due date. I think that may be everything. Category status, yep, that's everything, okay? So now that we have that select statement, now we want to compose our output. So compose our output, and then we want to respond to our Power App. So respond to Power App. Let's see if it shows up in here. Power Apps respond to Power App or flow. Add the output text, and this is our search input, and now it's our outputs. And that's our entire flow. So let's go ahead and check it out. Let's see if this works. So I'm saving. We're still in classic Power Automate. Now for this button here, so we'll just say Power App, on select, Power App V2. We want to make sure that it's the one that says .run. And the text is our text input 1, .text. So we're just running the Power Automate based on whatever we put in our field. Now when it responds back, we want to put this in our gallery. We want to create a collection. So we're going to clear collect. And the name of it, we're going to give a new collection name. So collection search query. And we're going to say for all. For all what? A table. Oh, there we go. A table of parse JSON. So we're going to parse what we searched on. And I'm going to take this Power Automate. I'm going to put it in there. So that's that full Power Automate dot search input. So that's the output. That's the last word that we put in our Power Automate. Remember when we did that last action, return? So this is our return, our search input. And then we're going to map out the fields. Ooh, if we can get Power Automate to actually, I want it to go to a new line. There we go. And that's going to be the ID is the value of a value.id. So that's the first one. Let's make sure this is all working right now. So we'll end it. So it's all looking good. We have our ending bracket. Let's format the text. This kind of helps me kind of visualize it. So our ID, the reason we're doing value is because it's an integer and we're saying, hey, give us an integer. So next is the, Power Apps, there we go. So next is the title, is the value.title. So we're still working just fine, comma, and I hate how it's trying to do that with the IntelliSense. So now action items is our value.action items. And I believe that maybe needs to be text, but let me just go ahead and try with just this short little query. This is so we don't do all the work. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try. So for this, instead of the search, we're gonna say it's the collection of our search query. So not all the fields are being populated, that's fine. Action items, let's put in customer name also. Let's do customer name. Customer name is the value.customer name. And let's go ahead and check it out. Let's go ahead and try it out. So everything's not filled in yet, that's fine. Let's search for specific. So it's running that Power Automate, it did work. Let's try checking Andrew Hess. So it still populated all of those with Andrew Hess. So all the ones with customer name of Andrew Hess, that did work. You notice that we have some of the old ones and also some of the newer ones. Now notice status and category and all these other fields didn't populate. So let's keep going with our Power Automate. So we have location name, value.location name. And you want to make sure that all of the capitalization is exactly the same. So what's left is category and status, and we can pull in date too. So category, value.category, status, value.status. And I think we had date in there too. So let's go ahead and do date. All right, so we have our full Power Automate pulled in there. Let's go ahead and try it out. So let's search for specific. Let's see if it searches. All right, it did search. The status was blank. Let's see if that's correct. So it should be warning. So status is not coming through correctly. Let's try and fix it. Let's say that this is a text. Let's see if that helps it fix. We'll run it again. There we go. So we do have to identify if it's a text sometimes. So let's kind of just make sure that all of our texts are identified. So title, text, text. We kind of just have to tell Power Automate that these are text values. There we go. So let's try again. Run it one more time. Now it looks like due date is not working. Did we have a due date in here? We don't have a due date. Let's put a due date in there. Oh, we do have a due date, but we're not pulling it through here. So let's make sure we get due date is value.dueDate. Let's try one more time. Press play. Search. We do have a date in there now. So it's looking better and better and better. So we are able to search. So we tried the top level, 2939. Let's try the bottom. So flooring. Let's search for flooring. There we go. We were able to search the bottom level now. So now for our final little touch, let's make sure we're above 4,000 rows. So I'm going to go to new inspection. I'm going to do more than we'll say 4,000. And then we'll throw this in here, more than 4,000. Customer name, location name, due date. Let's just throw some things in there. Patch another 1,000. Now, last time this did kind of error out on me, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to let it run. We just want more than 4,000 rows in there so we can double check our delegation. Okay, so we are definitely above 4,000 rows now. We're at 4,939 approximately there because I deleted a few. But there's definitely a lot more rows in here. We're going to go to Power Automate. I'm going to do a newest inspection. We'll say above 4. Above 4. We'll put some information in here. It's an item, green, and then we will submit. It's going to ask us, are you sure we want to submit? All right, so I ran into an error, and it was on my save button when I wanted to write again. So I didn't want to remove this from my video, but I want to show you how I conquered this. So right now, the patch button is using the gallery to write to, but we changed the gallery. The gallery is no longer the inspections list exactly. It's the collection. So what do? I want to tell the inspection it's equal to the collection. So if we go back into the inspection, on my save button, you can see that it's broken. It's really broken right here at gallery1.selected. So what I want to do is say, look up. What do we want to look up? We want to look up the inspection SharePoint list. Inspections, we want to look it up when ID is equal to ID. And it looks like I got an error. And let me just fix it again. Instead of ID, I should have known this. Gallery1.selected.id. So this is where testing comes into place. So we're just going to go back. And we're going to do an edit on walls were damaged. And we'll do again. And this time we'll submit, save. And it looks like it didn't update it, right? It didn't update it because we have to do the query again. But once we do the query again, then we notice that update takes into place. So in order to fix that issue where you think that it's not updating, but it is, all I did was go to the inspection form on an edit. I added the Power Automate after the button here. So I run my Power Automate again here with clearing the collect. So when I save on an edit, notice I don't run the Power Automate on a new. So on a new, when the inspection form is equal new, I don't run the Power Automate. But on an edit, I run the Power Automate again to recollect. So then now we come back, let's say we cancel, run PA on edit. We click submit, save. It's running that Power Automate. And you can see right here, now it has picked up that changes. So I know this was a long video, but I feel like all this was very powerful. We conquered delegation. We showed how to populate lists. We can now bring up the 493rd item. We can double check if we go to my list settings. We can see right in here, I have breached over 4,000 line items. So we're almost to 5,000. We can worry about SharePoint later if you want to try and index it and try and do all that fun stuff. But we have conquered delegation in Power Apps, and that's what we wanted to do. And we did it by using a get items function right here in a filter query in Power Automate. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. My name is Andrew Hess.